LiberalViewer presents.
So, as I've shown in my previous videos, Bill O'Reilly's made a lot of unfair attacks on the American Civil Liberties Union over the years, and those attacks have picked up a lot recently, including this month when I've even started to feel singled out for attack as an ACLU member. For example, in O'Reilly's attack on the ACLU support for releasing information about abuse at Abu Ghraib and other military prisons that you can see in this recent clip.
America has more than 200,000 men and women in the field overseas protecting us. And some loons want to hand the enemy inflammatory pictures? No, the lunacy stops here. A new Fox News poll says a whopping 77% of Americans believe the pictures would cause a backlash against American troops. Once again, the people know the score. Every member of the ACLU is guilty. Every one of them. There's no excuse to support this organization any longer.
Of course, blaming the ACLU or even the photos themselves for any negative reaction against American troops puts the responsibility on the evidence of the crime rather than the crime itself where it belongs, as ACLU Executive Director Anthony Romero pointed out on CNN recently here.
The photos are not incendiary. What's incendiary is the commission of torture and abuse that happened under Bush's watch.
And it's not just the ACLU's Anthony Romero. A refutation of O'Reilly's argument blaming the release of the photos for any resulting violence also comes from the unlikely source of former Vice President Cheney, who argued that it's unfair to blame the torture itself for being a recruitment tool because,
after a familiar fashion, it excuses the violent and blames America for the evil that others do. It's another version of that same old refrain from the left, we brought it on ourselves.
So it's unfair to blame America for the evil that others do, but it's fair to blame the American Civil Liberties Union? And even worse, though the point of the ACLU's Freedom of Information lawsuit is to uncover any possible complicity in torture higher up the chain of command, the other part of O'Reilly's argument is that Obama should listen to the generals and civilians at the Pentagon, who are exactly those higher up the chain of command who would be engaged in any possible cover-up, as you can see O'Reilly argue here.
If you're the president and your generals and defense secretary come in, and they say to you, Dr. Hill, please don't do this. We all agree. Everybody in the Pentagon agrees. This is bad for our troops, puts them in more danger. You, Dr. Hill, are going to say, blank you people. I don't care what you say, Secretary of Defense, General Petraeus, and on and on. I'm going to do this because I want transparency.
But again, it's not just transparency in the abstract that the ACLU is after. It's that transparency is the antidote to a cover-up, as Ann Brick, a great staff attorney at the ACLU of Northern California affiliate where I serve on the board of directors, explained to a local CBS affiliate here.
The failure to release these photographs makes it look like the administration is trying to cover something up. These photographs at issue now are critical in demonstrating that the abuse that we saw at Abu Ghraib was not aberrational.
And, as Ann Brick went on to explain,
that senior civilian and military officials must have been condoning and perhaps even authorizing this culture of abuse.
But despite the culture of abuse, accountability has not reached a very high level, as Anthony Romero pointed out back on that CNN show.
The highest ranking person who's been prosecuted for torture and abusive techniques is a lieutenant colonel who was acquitted.
And it's the lack of investigation of anyone up the chain of command that leaves the possibility of a cover-up that O'Reilly just dismisses as not credible with no support other than the volume of his voice, as you can see here.
No credible source makes that accusation, that it's systematic. Nobody says that.
No,
Obama doesn't say it.
True.
Pelosi doesn't say it. No one says that. There's no evidence.
No evidence? Doesn't O'Reilly understand that the point of a Freedom of Information request is to get evidence? As the ACLU's Anthony Romero explained when talking about the ACLU's lawsuit filed way back in October 2003,
we asked for any and all documents related to torture and abuse at Guantanamo, at Abu Ghraib, and in Bagram. The 2,000 photos, the sheer volume of them show that these were not a couple of isolated instances. We're likely to find photos from across all the theaters of war. They are likely to show exactly those enhanced interrogation techniques that were authorized by the Office of Legal Counsel at the highest levels. And frankly, that's why we need them in order to ensure accountability.
And accountability, transparency, a government that's open and honest with its people are all important American values. Exactly the kind of values for which we send our troops to fight, which is why it's so unfair, I think, for Fox News to pit the ACLU's Freedom of Information fight as if it's a fight against the troops, but I want to know what you think. Does it really honor our troops to increase their safety if we do it by diminishing the American values they are fighting to protect? And beyond America's values, just in terms of America's interests, isn't it in America's long-term interest to be a nation that can admit its mistakes in a way that stands as an example for others of transparency and accountability?
I YouTube, you decide.